Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sons of a Pitch, an American soccer podcast. I am one of your hosts, Nick Pateras, sporting my latest acquisition, classic Chicago Fire jersey here. Thanks, kids, for the birthday present. And it's laundry day, another reason why I've switched out of our typical Sons of a Pitch gear. As beautifully worn, though, by my good friend and fellow host, Mike Guglielmi. You can get all that swag on redbubble.com, so go check it out. Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Beautiful night. Wonderful night here. I think it snowed today. I am just happy. I love it. It's amazing.
Well, that's great, Mr. Canada. Canada born, loves your snow. Just not my time of year yet. I don't want the snow in October, but, we've lived in Chicago long enough to figure that is going to happen.
Yep.
But anyway, you ready to talk some soccer tonight, Mike? You ready to get the
Absolutely.
show going? Fantastic.
Absolutely.
We want to also thank everyone out there, speaking of conversation, for following us on Twitter at SOP Soccer, for subscribing to our YouTube channel at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, for following us along on Facebook at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, for emailing us, podcast at sonsofapitchsoccer.com, for reaching out to us in a variety of ways, for growing the conversation around the sport here in the United States. That's our goal. And Mike, you are putting your money where your mouth is. So tell us about this subscriber challenge.
Absolutely. So I'm trying to give away $250. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, if we do so by MLS Cup Final, hell, as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're just going to put it out there. $250 Visa gift card to one of our subscribers. It's that simple. Hit that subscribe button and get in on that challenge. I want to give away some money.
So make sure you're subscribing to YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And speaking of conversation, welcome back to the show, Amador Rojas, Rocky from Portland, Ryan Anderson, and Daniel Young. Thank you guys all for jumping on our live stream. Looking forward to talking with you all about MLS, USMNT, and all things around the American soccer landscape. So with that, Mike, you want to get right into some of these games?
Let's get into some of these games, man. We also have Jay Jardine 29 from Twitter jumping on as well.
What's up, Jay?
Jay and I had a great gifts conversation on Twitter the other night during the debacle that was the TFC game, and we'll get into that further. But that was some good conversation through gifts there. But we got to talk about a lot of games tonight. Starting out on October 19th, we've got New England Revolution and the Philadelphia Union. Philly goes in New England and wins 2-1. Nashville lays a beatdown on Dallas, 3-0. Seattle and Portland, top two teams in the West, they stay that way, a 1-1 draw. Nashville and New England, 1-1 as well. And Miami comes back and beats Orlando 2-1 in their first home game with a lot of fans in the stands. Well, not really a lot, but still more than they've had before.
So, Mike, what stood out to you in that slate of games? I know your beloved TFC didn't have one of the early matchups there. Rather, Philly was just kind of getting primed for that October 24th matchup with the Reds. But what stood out to you in this group of games? Because there's a few different things that I noticed.
Yeah, so for me, the biggest one was Nashville over Dallas. I just keep underestimating Nashville. I do it. I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter. I can't remember who, but they're like, you got to stop underestimating Nashville in your picks and predictions because they keep getting results. They are an informed team right now, and they're in a playoff picture right now, which is crazy to think of, that a team that started out as bad as they did, as an expansion team that kind of was going the slow build route, to be where they are now and in the form that they're in now is pretty impressive. So that was interesting to me as well. The Miami comeback over Orlando, right? What Miami kind of coming into form a little bit, kind of becoming the team that they should be on paper. Orlando, I don't think this puts them, puts a damper on their season at all. They're still doing good. They're still in a good, solid playoff spot, which they've now clinched the playoffs for the first time in history. But Miami coming back to win that in front of the fans. I'm glad they actually got some fans in that building, and they were so close that the day before the shutdown started. So, that's what really stood out to me. What about you, Nick?
Absolutely. The Nashville game, just the fact that they were able to score 3 on Dallas and keep Dallas off the score sheet. As Ryan Anderson says, Nashville's a dark horse out here, definitely could get past the wild card games. And that's where they're sitting right now. Nashville is in the 8th spot. And as you know, in the Eastern Conference, spots, what is that? 7 through 10 are playing each other in the playoffs. Yeah, I can count 7 through 10 have play-in games to get in, and that's where Nashville's sitting right now. Especially for them to beat a Dallas team that is squarely in the playoffs. Excellent game for Nashville. I know we keep underestimating them, and that kind of follows my philosophy of you are your history until you change it. You know, Atlanta was the best team in the league until this season when they fell flat on their face. Nashville is a struggling franchise until they can prove otherwise. And right now they're on the cusp of proving otherwise. Let's get them in the playoffs, and then we can say, okay, Nashville wasn't a total train wreck this season. You know, good for Nashville. They definitely got the talent that they could make the playoffs. The other thing that stood out to me, yes, great job for Miami, but the scheduling was a little weird. And we've heard a lot of talk about imbalanced scheduling, especially with the Supporter Shield lately. You have New England and Philly, you had New England playing the 19th and the 23rd, and you had Nashville playing the 20th and the 23rd. So that was kind of maybe not the best scheduling, and I'm sure there's other instances of that, but something the MLS might have to address moving forward. But speaking of that New England team, they lose to an excellent Philly squad. They draw a fine form Nashville. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Revs here, Mike. This is a team that, original team, kind of a team that I maybe started following early on when the MLS was just formed, just because I don't know. I think something just appealed them to me. Maybe it was the Alexi Lalas factor, me being a young Greek defender myself. Maybe that was part of it, as following the Revs a little. Maybe it was some of their rivalries with the Chicago Fire early on too. There were some great playoff matchups against the Fire early on. But the Revs right now, Mike, are in 6th place. They're 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw in their last 5 matches. I kind of look at the Revs in that second tier in the Eastern Conference. We've got Toronto, Philly, and Columbus in that top tier in the East. If you want to throw in Orlando this year, typically I'd put New York City in that top tier in the East. This year they're a little below that. But do you see New England as being that second tier in the Eastern Conference? Like, what do they need to do to challenge? I don't see them making a huge run in these playoffs. Maybe they could win a game just because of the craziness of playoffs. But it seems like it's more of an assessment year on their personnel. That's kind of my take on the Revs. I don't know if you got any thoughts on New England, especially being, the TFC fan that you are, who gets to see them quite frequently throughout the season. So what do you take on the Revs, Bruce Arena, that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, the Revs, I think they're a decent team. The injuries hurt them when they lost Carlos Hill, and I think they lost a couple other decent squad players as well over this season. It's definitely hurt them. They're a good team, but yeah, I put them squarely in that second tier in the Eastern Conference. Again, are they a legitimate MLS Cup contender? No. Could they win a game or two? Yes. They could make a little bit of a run, but they're not getting past Toronto, Columbus, Philly, or 2 of those 3 teams towards the end of the bracket, right? And even if they did somehow ungodly way make it to the MLS Cup, they're going to lose because that's what they do. They're the Buffalo Bills of the MLS, so they will lose MLS Cup. There's no question about it. But no, they're kind of in that second tier, and that's where I've got the Revs. Philly with a good victory, because it is a tough place to play in Gillette Stadium with or without the fans. It's that home field advantage of that turf that just bounces like crazy. So I'm not sold on New England. I think with a healthy Carlos Hill, they're a team that could be at the top of that second tier. But right now I put them squarely in that second tier. That they could fight with New York City, fight with Orlando, but they're not going to do anything with the top tier. So those are my thoughts on that. On Twitter, we got a comment on Twitter and on the actual feed part of it, not through the feed, but on the actual post. And David Ruffin says, "What did you guys dip Nick in?" I'm wondering the same thing. What did you dip yourself in?
I guess it's just all the fluorescent lighting that I've had down here, and all the Jack Daniels that I've drunk during this COVID quarantine thing. I think that's it. I'll have to play with some of this stuff here, but thank you, David, for the feedback. Typically, it's just my Greek complexion gives off a glow, and let's just leave it at that.
There you go. There you go. So
I get my annual physical. I'm fine, really.
Next 5 games up, we've got DC United goes into Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz, and the struggling DC United get the victory over Atlanta. Atlanta's struggles continue. Dear God, that team, what happened, man? I know they lost a lot of their stars. I know they totally flopped with Frank de Boer signing as the head coach, but damn, this team has fallen apart. DC United gets a late goal in this one to get the 3 points over Atlanta and put them right there with Atlanta on total points. I think they're 1 behind them now. NYCFC over Montreal 3-1. Good victory for New York City. They stay solidly in that second tier. Chicago and the New York Red Bulls 2-2 draw in this one. Cincinnati and Minnesota. Minnesota gets the 1-0 victory. And then Philadelphia and Toronto FC, number 1 against number 2 for the Supporters Shield that did get announced. They did reverse their decision, so I will touch on that quickly. They did the right thing. They had to do it. They did it. They reversed it. There's going to be a Supporters Shield, and somebody forgot to tell TFC that because they did not show up for this game. What an absolute joke of a game by TFC. I guess they were due for one. But it was kind of a good litmus test for them because everybody says, hey, TFC, they're just the best team in the league. They're so great. They haven't been winning their games. They haven't been blowing teams out. They've been barely squeaking by. And yes, there were some injuries. No Akinola, no Piatti, no Osorio, no Mavinga. I mean, there's a lot of injuries that were really hit the depth of TFC, but they didn't show up. 27 shots to 3 shots, total shots. Complete joke. Now, Philly, on the other hand, they came out and played like this was MLS Cup final. They had their best game of their season, hands down, possibly even in their history. Listening to the announcers, Tommy Smith, I love Tommy Smith, man. Dip in the old onion bag,
that guy has pure energy. Even if he has no idea what's going on, he's pure energy.
He rivaled Ray Hudson for Miami. And, He both of them even said that this has been the best performance of the year, possibly even the best in their history. That they were spot on with everything. Their tackles were amazing, their shots were amazing, their passing was amazing. Everybody was in position. Their high press was awesome. So right now, Philly's the favorite, hands down, to win the Supporters Shield because that tiebreaker, even though they're tied on points, the tiebreaker is goal differential, and they've got, I think, plus 22. The TFC's like plus 8. So they are way ahead in that perspective. So TFC has to regroup, play New York City next week, or actually Wednesday. And that's going to be a tough game for them as well, going up against a New York City team who's kind of rolling right now. So all credit goes to Philadelphia for that great victory. Other than that, Minnesota, the fact that it took a last-minute gasp against Cincinnati was a little bit concerning to me. I had higher hopes for Minnesota this year. But those are my thoughts on those games. Nick, why don't you what are your thoughts on these 5?
Yeah, well, the Toronto-Philly game sticks out for obvious reasons. Supporters Shield, just a sheer blowout. I don't know how many times we've seen an Eastern Conference team drop 5 goals, let alone 5-0 this season. So that is huge. You've got guys on Philly who are playing for European contracts right now. Like we already know Aronson is off to Red Bull Salzburg. McKenzie's being scouted. I'm trying to remember the name of one of their other players who's getting a lot of rumors to go to Europe. Like these guys are playing for so much as a team and as individuals. And for it all to come together, I agree with you. Now Philly is your de facto favorite in the Eastern Conference. And do you think, Mike, this is a statement? Do you think TFC is going to be up for the challenge of facing them in the conference finals? Or do you think TFC is going to sit back and go, man, those guys rocked us not too long ago? Is there a mental hurdle that they're going to have to overcome?
No, there's no mental hurdle. It's one game. It's not the playoffs. It is just one game. And there's no sugarcoating it. Greg Vanney didn't sugarcoat it. The players aren't sugarcoating it. They screwed up. They did not play well. Obviously, the TV crews, the podcasting guys, if this is an Eastern Conference final, to be like, remember what happened the last time these guys played each other and Philly killed them 5-0? Yeah, but these guys, they're professionals. They go out, they're going to play another game, and I guarantee you the next game between Philly and Toronto will not be a 5-0 scoreline. Guarantee it. Doesn't matter what the lineups look like. It's going to be a closer game. Now another team might win 3-1 or something like that and actually dominate the game and get a good victory, but it's not going to be a 5-0 type game. So I'm not worried about it. Ryan Anderson says, bright side, Toronto wins 3 in a row, which I still think they should, and Philly drops points to Columbus. He may live stream react that match. Toronto can still win the Shield. Absolutely. The Shield is not lost for TFC in any way.
Right. They're still tied on points right now.
What's that?
They're still tied on points right now. It's just goal differential is way in Philly's favor.
Exactly. So they have to beat them on points, right? So each team has 3 games to go. It could go any which way. Philly's got a tough Columbus team. There's no way guaranteed that Philly's going to win out. Just like with TFC, they've got New York City, Inter Miami, and I can't remember who they play in the last game of the season. But there's no guarantees there either against New York City, especially when they're not going to have a lot of guys again for that game against NYCFC. So,
right.
Also in the comments, Tony Mahalapet. Oh, geez, I'm just
don't even try it. Don't even try it.
Says they're saying Sergio Santos gave us one of his best games ever. You think he will have more like this? Reason why I say Tony is because my name is Mike Guglielmi, Mike G. I go by G all the time. It's a lot easier that way, and I'm sure you get that a lot. Sergio Santos, no, the guy's a bust. He has been ever since he came over to the Union. He's not that good. He scores the odd goal here and there. He got 3 goals in this game. Great. He got a hat trick. Well done. He's not going to have many more games like this. I doubt he'll ever score another hat trick in his Philly tenure. But that's just my thoughts. I'm not a big fan of Sergio Santos. He's decent, but he's not that good. So anyways, that's my thoughts there with TFC. So continue on.
Sure. Well, Sergio Santos, you're right. He's only valued at $715,000 on Transfer Market, and over the last couple seasons, he's gotten 4 goals in 17 games last year, and then this year he's got 7 goals in 18 games with a couple assists. So he's at least making more of an impact. But considering they bring this Brazilian player in on a TAM deal from Italy, they probably expected a little bit more from him. But if he can steadily improve, that Philly team is going to be good for several seasons if he sticks around. So that's a great call on Sergio Santos, Tony, and we'll be following him. Hey, real quick, let's answer Daniel Young's question. What do you think about MLS games being aired on ABC? I think it's great. It's a major network. You're getting exposure. It's being, they're part of the Disney family of networks. So you're getting all sorts of marketing and money, and you're getting usually good broadcasters calling the games. I think it's great. We need to have more soccer. And I actually saw something where ESPN Plus was advertising where they carry games for 20 different leagues now.
Right.
It's phenomenal. Between MLS, USL, and some of the bigger leagues in Europe, all the way down to some of the smaller second division stuff, ESPN is really slowly becoming a big soccer force. And just to market it and get it out there, I think it's great. Mike, I don't know if you have a differing opinion. I know a lot of people are anti-ESPN because, they're the sellout league. They're the big bad corporation. Dude, they're putting games on. That's all I care about.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I think it's great that these regular season games are getting time on, and Fox was doing it as well earlier when, just coming back from the COVID break. You've got games on ABC now on a Sunday afternoon. I love it. That can do nothing but help the game grow here in the United States. It's just that simple. Now, ESPN, it's fantastic. As a soccer fan, I love it, man. I've got soccer for days, soccer for months, soccer for years. Man, I can't watch all that soccer. Nobody can. They're putting on more soccer than you can actually watch. Every day there's 30, 40, 50 games put on a day, between all the different leagues they have, midweek games, Saturdays, Sundays, Fridays.
Right.
Love it. Lots of different leagues. You've got a good choice. So I'm all for it, man. I'm glad that it's getting some recognition on national television here in the U.S. So that's that's big, man.
Totally.
That's the step in the right direction. That's what we're looking for. I mean, to think that not even, God, I don't know, probably 2009, 2010. I remember I had to buy this extra expensive TV program to get Fox Soccer Plus on TV. It was I ended up paying $200 a month for cable just to get one channel, and they would show 2 MLS games a week.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or I'd have to buy MLS Direct Kick or something like that. You couldn't find MLS games on TV. So now the fact that you're getting at least 2 to 3 games a week on either ESPN, FS1, or the big networks, the free over-air networks like Fox and ABC, that's great for the game of soccer. It shows how far we've come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's transition back to some of our MLS talk here. I got a question for you, Mike, as well as all of our viewers and listeners. And we're going to look at the bottom of the table for this one. I want to know, who do you think, as we sit here tonight, is the worst team in MLS? This is a league that is based in parity. They want equality. They want to keep people drawn in. 3 of the last 4 championship games have been the same 2 teams. We have the same 5 or 6 teams at the top of the table every year. But this league it's built on parity. Any given Sunday or any given match day, we could have one team beat the other one. And Raphael Wicke, after Chicago's last game, even came out and said, this is a league of parity. Anyone can win any day. That's why you have to bring your best game every match day. And they didn't really do that against Kansas City against the Red Bulls. And I'll touch on that in a second. But the way I see it, Mike, you've got Atlanta, DC, Colorado, and the Galaxy, and maybe Cincinnati. They're starting to claw out of the basement. Pardon the Cincinnati Lions pun there. But, who's the worst team in the league right now? I kind of have to throw my hat in to the LA Galaxy. They've had such lofty expectations, especially with their DP signings, with Chicharito coming in with GBS as their coach. Sorry, I was about to butcher his name. They had such lofty expectations, and after Zlatan kind of started to get them to win some games and dominate LAFC in their rivalry, this was the year they were going to be back. And they have failed miserably. So if I had to give a worst team in MLS vote, it'd be the LA Galaxy for me. What are your thoughts on that? You're going to go Eastern Conference here, and maybe diminish your TFC supporter shield by having the worst team in the Eastern Conference, or you're going to pick something else?
I'm going to pick something else. Now, this is strictly just by the complete thought process of bad front office, bad everything. You were just talking about all aspects. And for me, that's FC Cincinnati. The team has nothing going for them. It really was the comment made by Nij Camp, the GM for Cincinnati, where he said, it's going to be about 4 or 5 windows before we're competitive.
Cool.
That's a problem.
That's 2 to 3 seasons out, right? Right.
2 to 3 seasons before you're even competitive. We're not talking about MLS Cup. We're talking about competitive. That's a problem. DC United would be right there for me because they just have really nothing to offer. I mean, they had Wayne Rooney. He played well when he came over. He left right away. They lost a lot of their young South American talent, and quite frankly, Edison Flores just doesn't cut it. He hasn't cut it this year. So I would put them there in that picture. But I put their front office a little bit ahead of Cincinnati just because that comment right there. That team, they can't win. Unless they're playing their rival and the supporters take down their banners, then they show up and they play well. So that's, I don't know. It's ugly. I mean, and there's Ryan Anderson says, so are Cincy on 3, or is that starting this offseason? So I mean, it's trouble for them. I'm not feeling FC Cincinnati, although the Galaxy are a very, very close second because, it's absolute trash what the Galaxy have out there. This team is – and again, the back line, that's where a lot of the issues lie for this team. When you've got a back line of Dupuis, Steres, Felcher, Bingham, that's garbage in the back. I mean, you're the LA Galaxy. You should have better players than that at the back line.
Yeah.
When you're spending money on Chicharito, $14 million or whatever the hell they spent on him, and Jonathan Dos Santos and Christian Pavone, one of the better players, one of the better players in MLS, period, talent-wise, and they're just letting it go to waste. So LA Galaxy is right there in that conversation. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and go with a different team with Cincinnati just because their front office issues are so bad as well.
Great analysis on that. I'll say DC at least has the excuse of all the injuries this year, right? At the very least, Flores and Arriola, two of their star players. I think Arriola's on a DP deal, so two of their DPs injured, right? But the other thing that I'm not seeing is them developing much their other guys. Like, we don't know who's the next best player on that roster. Maybe I just haven't studied DC enough or watched enough of their games. I mean, why would I? They're playing terribly right now. So I'll give DC they got a lot of injuries this season, and they really just needed to move on from Ben Olsen, which they did. So I'll give them that. And yeah, between LA and Cincinnati, I think we picked our two. I think we got the two right.
I think we got it down. And Jay Jardim on Twitter says, LA Galaxy are so disconnected, a team of individuals for sure, and they have been. And that's the only reason why when they had a guy named Zlatan who was still tearing up Serie A in Italy, which is not the best league in the world. I mean, let's be serious. It's probably the worst out of the group between the La Liga and the Premier League. I would say Serie A is probably a little bit behind those, but this guy's tearing up the league, and he couldn't bring success to the LA Galaxy. That is the individualness of that team, and it's a shame with that. H. Huss joined in and says, "Hey guys, how you doing, H. Huss? Thanks for jumping on." So there's the two worst teams of the league, at least by our standards.
There you go. I do want to touch on Chicago and the Red Bulls. If you can humor me for a couple minutes here on this one, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you're wearing a Chicago Fire jersey, so
I had the notes queued up, right? Like, so looking at the Chicago Red Bulls game, 2-2 draw, and Red Bulls come back, equalize in the 92nd minute. They took the early lead. Chicago goes up, and then Red Bull equalizes at death's door right there to salvage that point and maintain their current playoff spot. So we've got Chicago right now is out of the playoff picture based off of number of wins. I forget. That's how the playoff rankings go. Points and the number of wins. But they do have a game in hand. So hopefully that can come back and help them out. And then you've got the Red Bulls who are in that 7 to 10 play-in range. They're number 7. So that's kind of the teams we're looking at here. But I think a couple of teams are on par with talent. The problem with Chicago is they need to play complete games. Again, that's easy to say after you concede a 92nd minute equalizer, but Chicago always has these moments, whether they miss an early goal, like how they failed to convert a first-minute penalty against Kansas City, or they're unable to convert like 8 shots inside the box in the first 20 minutes into any sort of goals or results. They have these late defensive lapses. You look at the draws that they've held, or just spells of opponents' possession. Like there's times where there's 10 and 15 minutes where the Chicago Fire can't string together like 2 or 3 passes because their opponents is just dominating it. And in every game, that is something that the Fire have to overcome. They're slowly doing it, but it's just so frustrating to see. I guess you got to remember that this is technically an expansion year for them, probably, or practically an expansion year for them. But still, Mike, I feel like next year the Fire could make a push to get into the top 4. Am I way off base on that one? Do you see that happening? Do you see Chicago competing with the likes of Columbus and the Revolution, Orlando, New York in that kind of second tier pushing to the top? Or do they still have a couple more seasons to go?
It's possible. I'll give you that. It is slightly possible, but chances are no. It's Chicago Fire we're talking about here. And the way their management and front office and all that kind of stuff has been over the past. I know it's totally different now, but Frank Lopez is still involved. I can't. I'm not going to go that far. I think it's possible. I think they could maybe next year, if everybody continues to gel, they have a little bit of low turnover. Maybe lose a couple guys out of their starting 11, but for the most part, they stick together. I think they might be able to make with Columbus, possibly New York, if New York doesn't do anything crazy in the transfer windows, which, I mean, New York City, you never know what could happen. So I think they might be there, but I don't it's Chicago Fire, man.
Okay.
I can't see it.
Well, I'll give you the two bright spots. One, they got a lot of young talent. They've signed a lot of young defenders, which they're addressing a huge need of theirs, and that's consistency and quality play along the back line. The other bright spot, Robert Barish. He actually, believe this or not, Mike, he's fourth in the Golden Boot race this season. Or I should say, tied with Raul Ruidiaz for third with 9 goals. Jesse Zardes has 11, and Diego Rossi has 12. So he's tied for third. The Chicago Fire's DP striker first year is third in the Golden Boot race with, 4 more games to go or something like that? Like, you could have a Golden Boot winner on the Chicago Fire and have all sorts of memories to Nemanja Nikolic from years past. So that's definitely a bright spot. He's had 7 goals in the last 9 games, though never has had a multi-goal game for the Chicago Fire. So it's something he's still trying to accomplish there, have a 2-goal game. One other public service announcement I have to get to. Hey, Jose Guevara, let's go. Yes. One other public service announcement here. I saw a lot of people talking on Twitter over the last couple of Chicago Fire games. That's like, oh, the weather in Chicago, it's the Windy City. Just to let everyone know, and it's the history major in me too, Chicago's the Windy City because of all the hot air that politicians here are blowing. And that nickname goes back to like the 1920s, at least in Chicago. It does fit the weather, but it started with our politicians. So just a little something for everyone to know on that one. So I couldn't. I could
go so many ways with that, Nick. Shut my mouth. So the question here from Ryan Anderson, he says, Nick, did Chicago draw a point off of the Union? Thought?
Well, any given match day, right? That's what the league wants you to buy into. That's what the league wants you to believe. And if Chicago get that early goal, I think they could do it. I think they could draw Philly. They get an early goal. They play a little bit more defensive minded. They don't have to throw all their midfielders going forward. They keep some of their wing backs in that more defensive shape. They don't have to push forward as much. They can try to generate whatever offense from their attacking midfielders rather than the whole team. They probably could draw it. And if they get lucky, which seems like they have been getting lucky lately, drawing a penalty kick, fairly regularly, that's a couple goals and they could hold Philly to a draw. If they're going toe-to-toe with Philly, I think Philly's offense is going to break down that Fire defense. So that I'll give the win to Philly with the exception of an early goal and a penalty kick by Chicago.
All right.
It'd be great to see him in the playoffs. You never know. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy to see Chicago in the playoffs, especially with how rough of a beginning to the season it was for them.
Right.
But it is possible, especially this is the year to do it, right? Because you've got, you've got 10 teams out of 14 making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
So that's a good, real good odds to make it there. So we will see.
They're just below the line right now. If Inter Miami falls off, if Montreal falls off, then the Fire can slide into that 9-10 spot and then have a play-in against Red Bulls, Nashville, maybe New England, for the opportunity to play Philadelphia or Toronto in the next round. That'd be a great run of matchups for the Fire.
Yeah. All right, so now we've hit our break in the show, halftime break. Time to thank the sponsors, those who allow me to try and give away some money, just trying to give away some money, as well as, continue to fund our awesome show and help us grow and be able to pay for the streaming software and all the blue screens and all that cool stuff. So really appreciate our sponsors and our sponsors on the podcast side, Donovan Food Brokerage and nice premium Iceland Pure Spring Water. Donovan Food Brokerage. These guys, if you know anybody in the restaurant business in the Midwest, even, school food distribution, anything like that, get in contact, www.donovanfoodbrokerage.com. They're based right here outside Chicago. They're going to take care of you. They're going to take care of your business, help your business grow. They're helping our business grow. So really appreciate the help, Donovan Food Brokerage as well. Nice premium Iceland Pure Spring Water available at your local Walgreens. So any Walgreens in the country, you can find that water. It's good stuff. And then our competing Icelandic water, Skira Icelandic Spring Water. This is available at any 7-Eleven nationwide. So if you're thirsty and you need a drink of water, I know it's, here, at least in Chicago, when it's snowing outside, you're not really like dying of thirst when it's 37 degrees. But, for those of you down in Florida or in California or Arizona or Georgia or any of those nice warm places where I wish I was right now, go to 7-Eleven, go to Walgreens, get your Skira, get your nice Icelandic Pure Spring Water, and we appreciate the support from our sponsors. So there you have it. Go support them. They're supporting us, and we really appreciate that. We've got a few more games to talk about, and then we've got to talk about the USMNT, some news coming out from the United States men's national team side of things. 5 more games to discuss here. Houston and Columbus, 1-1 draw. Sporting Kansas City thrashes Colorado 4-0. Real Salt Lake and FC Dallas 0-0. Vancouver and San Jose 2-1. And then LAFC and the LA Galaxy 2-0 victory for LAFC and the El Tráfico. A couple notes that I will discuss is first off, the LAFC LA Galaxy game. We were going to do a live stream reaction for that. However, being dads of 7 children between the two of us, and husbands, it's kind of tough to break up midday when you have, already preordained agreements to go to with the wife and things like that. So we're sorry for not getting that out to you guys, but we will be back this weekend for the New York City, New York Red Bulls live stream reaction. But my notes on the games themselves: Houston and Columbus. Columbus kind of missed an opportunity here against a struggling Houston side. Sporting Kansas City did exactly what I thought they would do against Colorado. Colorado has not played soccer in a long time, like damn near a month. And I think they haven't even been on the practice field for, probably about 3 weeks of that month. So Sporting Kansas City, the best team in the West. Now, when you look at the standings right now, Sporting Kansas City overtook Sounders and the Timbers for that number 1 spot in the West, albeit they have a game more played than Seattle and Portland. So, just Seattle, but their points per game is a little bit lower than the Sounders. But right now they're in number 1. So you got to give credit where credit is due. Vancouver beats San Jose. Vancouver, what team's going to show up, right? You never know what team's going to show up for Vancouver. I just feel so bad for Vancouver fans, man. Like every year they bring in these pieces and we're like, all right, we're gonna have a good season, and then things just turn to crap, and then they lose these games they should be winning, and they win games they should be losing, and it's just nobody can seem to figure out Vancouver Whitecaps. So they beat San Jose, which again, San Jose is not the best team in the West, so no surprise there. LAFC, Carlos Vela, good to see him back on the field for LAFC. Personally, not a big fan of LAFC, but he's one of the better players in MLS. The more talent we can have on the field in MLS on any given Sunday or Saturday is a good thing to me. So he gets a goal. A lot of controversy in this one with, was the ball out of play? Was it not out of play? Yes, the ball was out of play. Yeah, it was out of play.
I don't know, Mike.
Yes, it was
maybe there was green between the touchline and the ball, but the whole ball didn't cross the touchline. Maybe
right.
The only thing I could rationalize why they didn't overturn it.
Right, exactly. So, LAFC back on track against a struggling LA Galaxy team, which we touched on earlier. So,
right.
Those are the thoughts there from me. What thoughts do you have on these final 5 games before we break into the USMNT chat?
Sure. Well, T-Mac points out, the ball was out, and you could definitely see the green between the touchline and the ball before LAFC launched a counterattack, resulting in their first goal. But again, the ball is spherical. You see it in Mike's background there on the screen. So the whole ball maybe didn't cross it, even though parts of it were all out. I don't know. But again, there wasn't enough there for the VAR to overturn it. They did do a check. They did stop play for a couple minutes after the goal was scored to make sure they reviewed it. So at least they're taking a look at it. Maybe there's just not enough evidence to overturn it, that whole standard. But gosh, everyone on our feed says that it was out. So I'd say a lot of Galaxy fans and a lot of other MLS fans would agree it was out too. But I just have to go with what the ref called it. But watching that game, like I really didn't spend a lot of time watching either of the LAF teams this year, so I really wanted to check this out, and I watched chunks of it. LAFC just doesn't know what to do without Carlos Vela. They have the similar game plan, which is great. Like Bradley coaches them up really well, and they've got a lot of talent outside of Carlos Vela, but he is such a unique player. And he is such a talented player that when they had the ball in the final third, it was they were really just kind of passing it around the defensive shell of LA Galaxy. They were doing a lot of rotating back and forth across the fields. They weren't getting those mismatches or overloads that you typically get when you have a Carlos Vela who just dribbles and cuts inside and gets multiple defenders drawn to him, allowing other players to get open or allowing mismatches and things of that nature. And he's able to find players to thread passes to. And if they don't double or triple team him, you know he's looking for that far post curler with his left foot. Diego Rossi just doesn't have that same kind of threat that Carlos Vela does. As much as he tried to attack defenders and make those runs and kind of drift and pull defenders, you don't know if LA was just playing terrible defense or if they didn't care about Rossi, because a lot of times they just let him do his thing. So with Carlos Vela coming back, it's a completely new dynamic for this LAFC offense. So we're great to see that. Great to see them maybe getting back to some more exciting soccer. It's kind of my thoughts on the LAFC. The only other thing, Mike, great to see Kansas City find some offense. Great to see them scoring goals again, especially, like you said, against a team who hasn't played soccer in how long, in the Colorado Rapids. So really glad to see SKC getting back on track. I've always kind of liked SKC. We've always liked them from a pick standpoint.
Yeah.
We always have them doing well in the Western Conference. And top of the West, top of the West, and They're doing it. They're doing it.
I think the sporting Kansas City fans are going to be a little bit more excited about the clean sheet than scoring 4 goals, because that's kind of their mantra, man. They are a defensive team. They have been for a long time, and they've picked up some of that offense, but they've been giving up a lot of goals as well. So I think their fans, at least their diehards that have been around for a while, I think they're more excited about that clean sheet than scoring 4.
Right. Hey, one last question before we get into USMNT news comes from Jay Jardim. How's Colorado going to make up all these games? Great question, Jay. Great question.
They're not. They're not going to make up all these games. It's just not going to happen. I mean, they won't be able to. I mean, they're down, how many games? They're below by the other team. I think the next lowest team in the league is 18, so it's 4 games.
Right.
You're not making up 4 games in this period of time before the playoffs start. It's just not happening. They're already playing every Wednesday and Saturday going forward now through the end of the regular season. I believe there might be one more Wednesday off for these teams to make up. So they're not. I think it's just can they play out a couple more games and maybe get into the playoff picture, which I highly doubt. Maybe if they're sitting on like 24 points or 28 points or something like that, and they're right there, maybe then they get to play another game in between the play-in games or something in the Eastern Conference. They'll have like a extra game. I don't know. Maybe they'll find some other way, but they're not making up those games. So good question, Jay. But it's not happening.
Yeah, from what I was reading, if they can't make up all the games, one thing that the league is considering is, okay, if we can't judge it based on points, we'll go by points per game then. And we'll take the top 8 teams of points per game to get them into the playoff picture. And if that is the case, Colorado's in. Colorado would be in the playoffs as the 8th seed it sits right now. So they would leapfrog San Jose, Vancouver, who are in the playoffs, and Real Salt Lake and Houston, who are now outside of the playoffs, if we go on the points per game model. They also have a +1 goal differential So the 4 teams ahead of them that I just mentioned, Vancouver, San Jose, RSL, and Houston, Colorado has a higher goal differential than them. All those teams have negative. Imagine Vancouver has negative 17 goal differential and is still in the playoffs right now. That's kind of ridiculous.
Oh, totally. And Marlon Laguna Cruz says, "Sup? How's it going, Marlon? Appreciate you jumping on." Well, I mean, let's just do a quick litmus test on it, right? What Colorado, Vancouver? Who you got?
Colorado.
Okay. Colorado against San Jose. Who you got?
I'd take Colorado.
Colorado FC Dallas. Who you got?
I mean, if
we're talking just based off the teams, not talking about current forms or them being out for a month.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to think. Like, I think I'd give the edge to Dallas because they've had some quality wins.
Okay, so then there you go. Colorado, Real Salt Lake.
I don't trust RSL. I'll give it to Colorado. They're more of a consistent team.
Right. So basically, with that being said, I put them in the playoffs. Right. So
yeah, there you go.
If it does go to points per game, yes, based off of the team, yeah, maybe they should be there. But you're gonna have a real hard time explaining that one out to the fans if you start going by points per game, because a couple teams, weren't able to play the same amount of games as other teams. Yes, us statisticians and accountants, we get that. I understand the whole points per game and breaking it down, and it's fair. However, when it's gone forever as this many points, it's that many points. And if you don't have the points, you don't make it. Sure. That's just how it goes. So
hey, look, all those other teams got to play the Galaxy a couple times. Colorado didn't get their matchup against the Galaxy and still have a better points per game. So give it to the Rapids. Let them in. Let's go USMNT.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's transition right along over there to USMNT. So Nick, we got some friendlies, man. We've got some U.S. soccer to watch, finally.
Yes, I'm very excited. They actually scheduled a friendly against Wales to be played in Swansea at Liberty Stadium over there. That is occurring November 12th, 2020, scheduled for, Swansea Stadium. My little background here.
Swansea background for anybody that's savvy that they're like, why the hell does he have a Swansea Stadium in the background? That's why.
Right. Y'all know I'm an Everton fan when it comes to English soccer. This weekend was rough. Let's not talk about that.
And that's what we don't do. We don't do the European soccer like a lot of these other soccer podcasts. We are strictly MLS, American soccer, obviously. Canadian. We are flirting with the idea of looking at Liga MX, Canadian Premier League, CONCACAF, things like that. But we'll see how that goes. But overall, MLS, USM, that's what we do. Canadian.
So we've got U.S. Wales coming up in a couple of weeks here. I wanted to look at kind of how these teams stacked up, and it's just a friendly. We're just trying to get some of our guys into a kind of a match readiness, international readiness, play them together. Is it going to be a mix of MLS and European players? Is it going to be all European players because of COVID travel restrictions? Whatever the case is, I kind of wanted just to take a little comparison here between Wales and the U.S. So right now, according to FIFA rankings that just came out last week on the 22nd, the U.S. is ranked 22nd in the world. That's just not bad, Mike. We're the 22nd best soccer federation in the world here. Wales ranked 20th. So very equal teams when it comes to FIFA rankings. By comparison's sake, there's rumors that the U.S. is going to possibly have a friendly against New Zealand. New Zealand is ranked 121st. So that was just a game we just got to get our guys out on the field. We can actually garner something based on a game against Wales, especially with Gold Cup starting in July and World Cup qualifying starting for the U.S. probably, I'd say, early 2022 maybe, or late 2021. I don't know. They haven't rescheduled when the U.S. starts, when that third round starts. So we need to start getting some feedback on our international players here. And Wales, I think, is a great game to do that. One other thing to keep in mind as far as the FIFA rankings go and kind of where the U.S. fits in the world pecking order of soccer, only 2 countries ahead of the United States are outside Europe and South America. So Senegal is ranked 21st, just ahead of the U.S., and Mexico is ranked 11th. Every other team from 1 to 22, 1 to to 20, I guess, is either a European team or a South American team. So that kind of tells you where the United States is. We're right there, as much as you want to trust FIFA and their rankings and the Coca-Cola sponsored rankings. The United States is right about to break into this upper echelon of world football, of world soccer, right? And we're going to beat Wales, and we're going to be top 20 in the world. Is that how it's going to go, Mike?
You're buying the hype, man. You're buying the hype. So a couple comments I want to put up here first. Ryan Anderson says CONCACAF is greater than European football. Although I would have to slightly disagree with you on that fact, Ryan. I like watching CONCACAF better than European, that's for sure. But for all of our fans as well, Ryan Anderson, he joined us on the live against the TFC against Atlanta United. He's blowing up on YouTube, so go check him out on YouTube. You can find him on Twitter as well. So go check out Ryan's page. He does all things CONCACAF. So a good producer of content as well. So thanks for jumping on there, Ryan. Also, we've got T-Mac jumps on, first-time listener / watcher. Happy to see more MLS contact makers. Absolutely. Thanks, T-Mac, for jumping on. And we're always that's what we do, man. We're here for MLS, and love to get the recognition like that. That is huge. Now, as far as with this, I mean, come on. This game means nothing against Wales. Absolutely nothing. I put zero stock in the the Coca-Cola FIFA rankings. Never have. The FIFA rankings are a joke. This game is absolutely nothing but get these guys back together, kind of have a camp, play a game, and call it a day. There's no competitiveness to this match. It doesn't matter if the U.S. beats Wales 4-0 or Wales beats the U.S. 4-0. I will take nothing out of this game other than seeing these guys back on the field together again after a long break. So there's nothing in this as far as like, oh, okay, well, we're really going to match up well with this team, or we're kind of even and all that. I get, yes, those are the facts there. But when you're talking about a break of damn near a year from international soccer, these guys aren't going to have – it's not going to be pretty football. It's not going to be pretty soccer. Let's just start the process of getting back into things. And there you go. And there T-Mac jumps in and says, Wales at 20 in the world seems a little high. Those FIFA rankings are odd. Yeah, a good friend of mine, Carl Robinson, former TFC player, former Vancouver Whitecaps head coach. I think he's coaching in Australia now. He was like a standout for the Welsh national team for years. And I love Robo, but he's not a top player in the world, never has been, and he played a lot of games for Wales. Yes, they have Gareth Bale, who I guess is good. I don't know if he's good anymore. He was a while back.
Still playing for Real Madrid. It's the last I checked.
Yeah, so I mean he's decent, but that's their only guy. The rest of the team isn't that great. I mean, they're a European soccer team. They're not Italy. They're not Brazil. They're not these top teams. So it is what it is. Wales, yeah, that ranking is high. That's why I don't think I don't really put any stock into it at all. So
and
Jay asked, on that one.
Yeah, and Jay asked this. He goes, "If you try to figure out how they rank teams, it'll make your head spin." Yeah, I looked up the formula, and it's insane. But FIFA, if you go to their website, they give you like a general description of it, and it's pretty much like better teams get less points for beating bad teams. So you want to play good teams or teams more on your level. And it all changed when they started having these nations leagues. Like you have the Uefa Nations League, the CONCACAF Nations League. You've got teams who are playing more like-minded teams. So that way a team like in England or Germany or an Argentina aren't going to go there. There's no incentive for them to play Monaco or any tiny little nation like that. There's incentive to play teams about your ranking because you get more points and you boost up the rankings, and then your rankings are what help you in World Cup qualifying. So I like the idea that FIFA has tried to make everything a little more linear and how everything plays into each other, and it gives more incentive for teams to play better opponents. You allow for some of the smaller soccer nations, like here in CONCACAF, all those Caribbean nations, they're going to all keep playing each other and really try to work up the rankings by almost promoting themselves out of that little group. So I like how they've kind of redone the rankings, but yeah, you're right. It's crazy from a formula standpoint, and it's probably going to take another maybe year or maybe another Nations League cycle before it kind of works itself out where all those teams really need to be. But yeah, if you guys like numbers and like math, go check that out. They've got an entire PDF on explaining the technical definitions of it. It's only 3 pages of single-space math formulas. Yeah, not bad. So yeah, check it out. That's kind of my take on it.
Like myself.
Yeah. Don't punish yourself too much then, Mike, if you're going to go dive into that one. Hey, you got time for one more question, or we got to wrap things up?
No, let's do it, man. We still got about 5 minutes.
All right, last question comes from H. Huss. Would you rather have Americans play in the Premier League or La Liga? And let's expand this. Like, where do you want young American talent to go? Personally, I'd like them in the Premier League just because you can watch them. There's more access. And the Premier League is generally considered to be the best league in the world. So if you have your best players playing in the best league, it can only help you out. You get more exposure, all that great stuff. Plus, the level of the English Championship, their second division, is on par with a lot of other national top flight leagues. So a lot of people will put the English Premiership on par with the MLS or on par with say the Norwegian League or the Danish League or something like that. So we've got a lot of Americans playing in the Scandinavian leagues when we'd love to see them get into the championship and kind of play their way up into the Premiership. So I'd like to see them there. I think that style of play is the most prominent in the world. It's speed. It is total football, if you will, where everyone is on offense when you have the ball, when everyone is on defense when the opposing player has it. I'd love to see players, if I had to pick those 2 leagues, go to La Liga. But I do love the fact that Americans are all over Germany because the German league tends to not be as discriminatory towards Americans, at least from what I can tell. And if you excel on your club in Germany, you get those first team minutes. That's my take on it. Mike, give me your take. Where do you want to see Americans play overseas, and then bring us home, brother?
Yeah, so I want them to play in the Premier League. I want them to be in the best league out there. It just because I think the better the competition you're playing against, the better you become. That's something that I've always experienced in my life, and that's just my thought. And I want to see these guys in the Premier League because that's the best league in the world. Now, when you start breaking it down by minutes and the type of play that they're going to get and the issues that you've got, like Frank Lampard and Christian Pulisic, so on and so forth, that comes into play. But I want to see them in the Premier League. That's my thought for that. Now, as far as we got one more question I want to wrap up real quick here because I talked a lot about the NBA. But Daniel Young says, which NBA team would you compare NYCFC to? I would say Houston or Philly. They're always a tough out in the second round. Now, Daniel, I'm very disappointed in your thought process for your team being like you're like guaranteeing they're an out in the second round. I mean, I know history speaks that way, but I mean, as far as a team, I'm going more like the Clippers. Like the LA Clippers. Like they've got a big team, they've got those star players, they've got a good team, a good regular season, and then they fall apart in the playoffs. That's where I'm going more with New York City. But again, I know nothing about the NBA. I just know the Raptors. Literally the only basketball I watch is the Raptors at all in the NBA. And I watched their playoff run. Yeah, they beat Philly, who was a good team, took it to that Kawhi Leonard crazy shot. Kawhi now on the Clippers. But, yeah, I mean I'm going to go with the Clippers. That's my best guess. I'm not really an NBA guy. Nick, any thoughts on that before I take it home?
Dude, I haven't watched a complete NBA game in probably 3 years.
Okay, yeah. There you go. So with that, let's wrap this up here. We've got my picks and predictions coming up very shortly, probably within about a half an hour. I might even start it earlier, to be honest with you, in about 10 minutes because I got it all queued up here with all my slides ready to go. So I'll probably just knock this out because we've got odds this week, actually in time. I didn't have to wait 3 days for the odds to come out. Also, this weekend, we will be doing a live stream reaction for New York City FC hosting the New York Red Bulls, the New York Derby. We will be covering it live.
Derby
will be fun. We got to find some fans for New York City and for the Red Bulls. So if you're watching and you want to be on, I think Dan Young, I don't know, you want to be on for New York City. Red Bulls, if you guys know any Red Bulls fans, maybe they want to be on with us. But we'll be there live for that one next week as well. So that pretty much wraps it up. We got a few more comments here. Ryan Anderson says, I was going to say the Clippers too. Same thing. My thoughts, right? Regular season dominators get a big ego, choke in the playoffs. So Daniel says, hopefully I can join. So we'll see. But with that, it's time to go. It's been an hour and 49 seconds, actually. So everybody, thanks for joining us. Lots of fun, lots of good conversation. Really appreciate seeing everybody on there, especially T-Mac, first-time viewer/listener. That is fantastic. Tell your friends, tell your enemies about us. Make sure you subscribe. Tell them to subscribe. We're trying to grow a business here. And we'll talk to you guys real soon with picks and predictions and over the weekend. So enjoy the soccer. There's lots of it coming up. We've got tons of games this week and this weekend. So enjoy. Talk to you guys very soon.